Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute. Willkommen zum das einzige Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right, folks. Officially the world's only English Schalke podcast worldwide. This is episode 107 of SchalkeMerica, and I'm your host, Richard Kharman. Joining me on the show, as always, is co-host Jack Mangan. How we doing, Jack?
Doing well. Love the hat, Richard, by the way.
Thank you.
You got me outclassed in the hat game tonight.
Courtesy of Hammer und Schlagel. Make sure you go get him. Great work by these guys. I love the hat. You see Stamboli and some of the other people wearing these hats, but gotta love it, man. I love it. Little GE down here. Look at that.
You can never have too much Schalke gear, man. I got to step it up on my end. You're always right. I mean, you got some stuff in the background of your shot right now. You got the whole setup, man.
I do a little bit, huh? It's all right. It's okay. It's not your primary setup, is it now? So
that's true.
Can't have it all, I guess, right? So, we got a lot to talk about tonight. It's an interesting matchup that we had this weekend, and some big games for us coming up on the horizon. But let's start off on a little bit of a good note here. It is the Christmas season here, and everyone's putting out their advent calendars. Of course, our good friends at Hauptfeld Flanke are putting out their daily their advent calendar, if you will, of the most favorite players of all Schalke fans around. And so definitely check it out. I think they're up to like day 9 now or something like that. So keep an eye out on that. You may see one of us pop up on that. Who knows? But yeah, it's certainly a way to check up on some of the favorite players of some of the people. We've had some people, some names that you expect, like Klaus Fischer, and then other names like Horst Held and some other ones that you're not expecting. So it's really good stuff. Maybe we'll see Michel Langer. Who knows? We still got time, right?
Perhaps.
Yeah. So I guess we should just get into this game, Jack. Interesting one. Obviously, a game that we're playing against, second place Bayer Leverkusen, or after the game, they end up being in second place. We have this run of playing. We played every team in the top 7 so far in the league. We knew it was going to be a gauntlet to start the season, and it was, but it seemed to continue on up until this point. We've played every heavy hitter so far in the league, Jack. It's not been easy. We've not been kind for Schalke.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely the first half of our schedule here was definitely front loaded with some pretty good talent. This next running games leading up to the Winterpause is going to be an opportunity for us to play some people that are closer to where we are in the table at the moment, and hopefully that has some sort of effect on our ability to get points. But yeah, just every time you're hoping that we can start, looking at the team turning a corner, you see an opponent like Leverkusen on the schedule, and then you have to ask yourself how realistic it is that that's going to take place. We may see something like that, and unfortunately, it didn't go our way this week as we would have expected. So
no, and it's not. Leverkusen has surprised many this season because they've been usually they're pretty Jekyll and Hyde, but this year they've been fairly consistent, as it shows. Obviously, they're second in the table. Their starting lineup in this one, they came out with a 4-3-3. Radetzky, who's been a pretty amazing goalkeeper, started in goal. You had a back four of Bender, Ta, Dragovic, and Sinkgraven. Midfield, you had Wirtz, Baumgartlinger, and Amiri. And then up top, you had Bailey, Diaby, all led by Patrick Schick. Fairly standard lineup. They had some guys missing, like Delarabi, who I think was tested positive for COVID, like Katuchu. But overall, I mean, strong lineup. We knew it was going to be tough, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Especially the combination of Diaby and Bailey on opposite wings. We seem to see Schalke really struggle. I mean, there's a lot of ways in which we're struggling defensively, but particularly when teams start getting wide on us and running it off the shoulder. We've seen that a lot. And so I was kind of concerned coming into this game that, with some of the players they have, that would be very much more of the same.
Yeah. And, speaking of concern, seeing the starting lineup, obviously seeing Michel Langer in goal, many people were worried about him, not knowing too much because we haven't seen much of him, not in 13 years. But obviously he was in goal for a good reason. Fairman's injured. Renov is injured. Schubert's on loan, so we don't have anybody, and so who else? He has to be the one who fills his spot. I think when I saw this lineup initially, I didn't have any questions. I thought it was a pretty standard lineup, but the questions started growing in my head as the game went on. We can get to that, but the starting lineup came out in a 4-2-3-1, at least how I saw it. Malik Tiao as the right back, Ozan Kabak and Stamboli as your center backs, Bastian Ochuka as your left back. You had a double pivot of Omar Mascarell and Suat Serdar, a front trio of attacking players of Skripski, Bujaleb, and Benito Rahman, and then all led up top by Mark Ut. What did you make of the lineup? Fairly standard for the most part. We saw some shuffling around, but overall standard.
Yeah, it seemed to be the same kind of shape. that we played last week. You could call it a 4-2-3-1. It was sometimes when Boujaleb's dropping back a little bit. Otherwise, it's like a 4-2-2-2. If both of them are high. So, I mean, once again, you're seeing Benito Raman and Skripski, which I've kind of supported over the past couple episodes just from a work rate perspective, feeling that those guys are going to be industrious and really buy in for a full 90-minute shift, which is kind of what we needed based on some of the things we were seeing. Unfortunately, I think that both players, and in particular Benito Raman, really struggled in this game and were quite poor, with once again Mark Uth being kind of a bright spot and at the center of a lot of the things that we did well. As far as the back four goes, not for the first time this season, we've seen Malik Chow now kind of go into a left or right back position. Killian Ludwig getting. I'm assuming he's not injured, right? And nothing like that. It was just
I saw him there warming up. So
I would imagine it's just that he had played basically every game up until this point, and he's a young kid, so it's that's a lot of match minute strain for him. But we had seen Malik Chow coming on the left side. Now we're seeing him coming on the right side. Still kind of interesting that you wouldn't try to throw Hamza Mendel on the pitch. Rather than wouldn't you rather see Malik Chow at center back instead of Stambouli with Hamza Mendel? I'm sure he could play right back if he had to with opposite Ochipka. We did ultimately see Hamza Mendel in this game. I think that's the first time this season. But I was a little bit curious that we haven't seen him in the starting lineup yet, especially in situations like this where we're playing players somewhat out of position to cover those areas on the field.
Sorry, I was reading the comments by Joseph saying he beat Gladbach in FIFA with Schalke on 90-minute winner 7-6. That's a shootout. Was that a basketball game there? Pretty high scoring there. It's interesting. And I definitely would have had Malik Chow probably starting at center back over Stambouli. We've seen it how inconsistent he's been or poor we've seen him this season so far. Hamza Mendel, we did see him in this game. We'll get more into him because I think many are wondering. Let's see what he can do at least, right? We saw a little bit of him, a few minutes of him. Promising things I think I saw compared to Chipka. We can get to that, but overall it was an okay lineup. Obviously to see Tiao as a right back, it shows the flexibility he has. He's obviously a center back, but he can play the left side or right side. Probably can play in the midfield too. So as many people are dubbing him, Joel Matip 2.0, but not too much pressure on the kid. Let's just work him in there and get him used to the way things are going here. But I thought the first half was very much worse than the second half. We saw the lineups that came out there. Things started out positively for us. I think something in the first 5-6 minutes. Raman, he tried to find Uth on a 2-on-1. Dragovic ended up blocking the pass, and this seemed to be a theme with Raman. He kept popping up in good spots, and every time he got a square pass, either Boujaleb or Uth, he could never find that pass. And you hear the commentator Steve McKenna kept saying this is a pass he should be making majority of the time, and he's not. And I don't know what it was, but they blew a golden opportunity early on in that game.
And that's what I was referencing when I called out Benito Raman earlier. Is exactly that kind of thing. I think off the top of my head, I can picture at least 4 different scenarios where he picks up the ball, usually more on the left-hand side of the box, has 1, sometimes 2 runners making parallel runs, and just his inability to get it around, the first foot of the defender, and gives one of his teammates a chance to make something happen. As you said, was a theme in this match, and I'm not trying to claim that we had some sort of fantastic offensive game, but when you look at the number of times we got into a position where, a single pass across the box, slotted over to one of your teammates could have resulted in actually a relatively high XG opportunity. This could have actually come and looked a little bit different at the end of it. It was frustrating. I feel for Mark Uth and all the other people that are consistently making these runs and then just not seeing it. I thought Suat Serdar actually as well was a little bit selfish at times in this match, consistently trying to pull up for himself and not looking across the box to some of his teammates. It's one thing if people aren't making those runs because they're just not bought in and they're not trying. But you're seeing guys like Skripski show up in some of these areas, and there just seems to be maybe even a lack of trust at times between some of the guys. Obviously, Benito Raman was trying to play the passes, but I think at other times there's times people being a little bit too selfish, and I don't know if that's just the team.
They're like, if I don't get it off, no one's going to get it off, and I don't know. I can see that. You mentioned Skripski early on, at least in the first handful of minutes. He was doing a lot of good defensive pressure. I know he won the ball back playing by good back checking, and I was hoping that would be a good sign for the game. I mean, the first 10 minutes or so were fairly open, I thought, which is never a good thing with a team that's as powerful as Bayer Leverkusen. And boy, did they started turning it on, and really, I think the turning point was in that 10th minute. They ended up getting a corner kick, an own goal by Malik Thiaw. Dragovic looked to foul Thiaw on the play, and I'm curious what your thoughts on that. Well, let's get right into your thoughts. What do you think about it? Did you think it was a foul on Dragovic? What did you make of that play overall?
You talking about the own goal?
Own goal, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think there was a lot in it. I mean, there's contact. There's some hands on each other. It's definitely a play when you see the replay, like you're looking like you want it to be something because you're hoping that something gets called back. And every time I watched, I'm like, it didn't seem like the contact really caused him to lose balance that much and misplace his header or whatever. I just didn't see a foul as much as I would like to. I think Malik Thiaw needs to be maybe a little bit stronger and hold him off a little bit better. It's just kind of one of those unfortunate things. It's the kind of thing that happens when you're in the table position we are right now.
I think it's a theme in this game that the younger players need to be a little bit stronger on the ball, or when they're going 50-50 chance. Initially when I first saw it, I'm like, that's a foul on Dragovic, no doubt about it. And you start watching replay more and more, and you're like, he was on him, but I don't think he, like, initially there was a push, but then he kind of let go of it, and Malik Thiaw was trying to make a meal out of it and trying to draw a foul, and I think when he went for the header, he misread that header and just banged it perfectly into the net as opposed to going wide. And as much as I wanted it to be a foul, I don't think it ended up being a foul. I know I saw many people on Schalke Twitter were saying, that's a foul. Why isn't the call? And I'm like, in the heat of the moment, I agree with everybody. But the more you watch it, you're more like, that's a stretch, I think.
Yeah, the way I try to judge some of these things sometimes, or at least I think it's helpful to view it this way, is, imagine if you were a Leverkusen supporter, would you be upset if that had gotten overturned for that contact? And I think watching that, I probably would have been upset that would have gotten overturned. I don't think there's enough there. And so for me, it's like, then, do I really need to yell at the ref and say, it's a mistake. I think you make a good point, though, about some of these younger players needing to be maybe a little bit stronger at times, because I think we saw that from Matthew Hoppa potentially later in the match for Leverkusen. Second was a similar kind of situation. Yeah. And these are just one. And we say it all the time, but too easy. Yeah. Too easy. I mean, Leverkusen's third goal is which we'll get to, is more of just kind of somebody falling asleep. But the first two are just kind of set piece, not the kind of goals you want to be conceding a team as offensively good as Leverkusen anyway. Those aren't the cheap ones that you want to give them the opportunities on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think one person who probably disagree with you strongly, Mark Oot, he ended up picking up a yellow on the play for his protestation of the goal and why it wasn't a foul. So, which
I'm fine with, by the way.
I am too.
Yeah, talk to the referee as much as you need to, and I want a leader like Mark Oot to be sticking up for his guys and advocating, even if I disagree with his perception of what took place. Yeah, I love that. 100%.
Yeah. He's one of the few players. He's even talked about how there was no really leadership on the pitch, and he's become one of the leaders all of a sudden. Because out of necessity, really, because a lot of people are being quiet and not saying anything. So he's the one kind of stepping up in all this, and you see him get a lot of these kind of fouls now, and I'm fine with that too as well. Unfortunately, that goal was the first goal conceded by Michel Langer in 13 years. His streak is over, Jack. Unfortunately, his shutout is not going to continue, but it wasn't really his fault. I don't think on that. Well, I know it's not his fault in that play. It was a great header by Malik Thiaw. Hopefully he can do that on the other end in the future. But what we saw from Michel Langer in this game was he played pretty well. He started off a little worrisome. I think there's one play early on where he made a save and really it was an unnecessary corner kick he gave up in one play. But he's getting stronger and stronger as the game went on, I thought.
I think I know which one you're referencing. Yeah, there were some moments where I think you saw a keeper who was lacking a little bit of composure, probably from some nerves.
Yeah.
But I think this is, once again, this is a situation where this is not a player that I'm interested in criticizing. No. If it had been, it wasn't that bad of a performance or anything like that. I think he did well. But a guy that just doesn't get that many opportunities and is just perpetually kind of waiting around. Not a whole lot that you can expect. And honestly, I'm just kind of happy for him personally that he got the opportunity in the first place, because you look at some of these guys that are they're in the training sessions every day, putting in the exact same work that a lot of the other guys are, and they never get any match time on the field. So but yeah, you appreciate a guy stepping up and sliding in and trying to do a job for us when there's an issue with the injury depletion right now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't think anyone can fault him for anything, any way he played in this game. What we did see after that own goal is that Leverkusen really smelled blood and they were going for it. It was constant pressure pretty much for the next, 10 minutes or so, really for the whole game. But, the 10 minutes in particular, they were very strong. Patrick Schick, he had great opportunity to make it 2-0. Missed a tap-in from like the 2-yard line. I don't know how he misses that in the 14th minute. But I know for the first quarter hour or so, Schalke had no shots on goal. It was like something like 7-0 in shots, 8-0 in shots that first quarter hour. What I did notice, though, from a tactical standpoint, is we were not putting any pressure on Bayer Leverkusen in the first in their own half of the pitch, or letting them bring it up. And then once they got into our zone, we started pressing, but we were only pressing the ball carrier. We weren't pressing as a team. And I thought that was a recipe for disaster, Jack. I don't know how you felt or if you saw any of that with the pressure or the lack thereof by the team.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought it was interesting. It was like once they got into our half and then you started seeing the pressure, then it was almost creating too much space between the lines. Yeah, which was opening up some easy passing opportunities in behind. It was sort of strange. Usually we see Schalke try to apply that pressure a little bit higher up the pitch. The opening in this game was, to me, it was just very clear that we were playing an opponent that was better than us.
Yeah.
What I saw in the beginning was just like they're kind of doing whatever they want to do fairly easily. Yeah. And this is just what happens when you're playing a team that ultimately is going to go into second place here with the kind of offensive firepower. I mean, after that first goal, even before that Schick opportunity that you talked about, which was a mind-blowing miss because it's a fantastic ball in, I think, from Diaby.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Stambouli falls asleep on. Which is funny because he actually like checks where Schick is and is trying to keep an eye on him. And then within 2 seconds, he makes the run behind it. And Stambouli's like, that's the thing we see from him every week. He should have scored. But right after the goal that they did score, within seconds, Leon Bailey gets in behind with a 1-on-1. And I think, honestly, a player of Leon Bailey's caliber probably should have done better there. But like that could have been the 2-0 either. So, It really is not. We understand like, the XG for Leverkusen might not have been like 4 at the end of the first half, but in terms of the way that we typically view chances as like supporters, easily could have been 3 or 4 goals from Leverkusen. Yeah, they were getting whatever they wanted. And I think the other thing is that speaks to what the commentators you were saying, Phil Bonney, and they kept mentioning how the approach is coming off as a little bit naive. It's one thing to be like, hey, we're trying to get things going here. We're trying to instill a style of play and get a system going. But if that's just like you being way too open at the back and creating some of these open games, like maybe you do need to be a little bit more cynical, sit back and just try to play the counter game. I know that's not what any Schalke supporters want to see in terms of like the style of play week in, week out. It's not fun football to watch usually, especially if we're not going to be, effective at the end of these counter-checking opportunities. Yeah. But they repeatedly said throughout the match, like, I don't understand why Schalke is allowing this much space in behind. Like, this is going to get them relegated. So that was interesting comments and something to consider potentially going forward as well.
Yeah.
When do we flick that switch,
Exactly. And I remember hearing those comments and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I mean, they hit the nail on the head, and, it showed because Schalke really struggled to get the ball out of their own half really in the first 20 minutes. We had a couple opportunities going forward, mostly with Rahman and Uth, but really it was all, Leverkusen in the first 20 minutes. And then we saw the 20th minute, Schalke started turning on the pressure in Bayer's half. That pressure it was a team pressure that they had led to turnovers and mistakes by Leverkusen. And I'm wondering, they gave up on it way too quickly. They did it for like a minute or two and then they stopped. I'm like, that was good pressure. You're forcing them to make turnovers. It's not sustainable for 90 minutes probably, but you got to do more of that. It was obviously working against Leverkusen. They were giving them opportunities. Why did they stop? And that's kind of why sometimes I leaves me my head scratching with Baum, because I'm like, that's how you should be doing it. And then you stop. I'm like, we had the same issue with when we had success with Wagner in the first half of last season on the Hinrunde. We were pressing the team just like that, causing turnovers. And that's what led to all our goals. We were being opportunistic. We're not doing enough of that, I think. And I don't know if it's because we're scared or what, but I thought those moments that we saw of the team press was effective. I don't know. Did you see that? You know what I'm talking about?
I guess one possible suggestion for, what you're seeing is like, it's such an expensive way to play in terms of how physically taxing it is. And so for people to want to sustain that level of activity for 90 minutes, they can't be looking around and then seeing one of their teammates maybe not applying that same level of effort. Because if you're going to be sprinting in some of these challenges, and then somebody else is not going to put that effort in and it allows the whole thing to break down and you're wasting that effort, you're going to look around and be like, then why am I even doing this? And that might cause the entire thing to kind of like dip, time after time. So I don't know. I still think we got a lot of running in this game. And I think our running stats over the past couple games are good. But I mean, I also think to some extent we overvalue that sometimes. And it's just like, oh, we're running around. It's like, well, great. Well, what is that actually accomplishing for us? So at this point, I'm not even like, saying we need to be committed to like intense pressing all the time, which is what we've kind of tried to do over the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
At times, I don't know. I want to do something that's going to work, and I don't know what it is. And if the buy-in isn't there, if it's inconsistent, and we're not seeing it, be effective, then I'm entirely open to switching it completely.
I think the one time we've seen that successful was in the Tedesco era against Bayern, I should say, where we pressed them for like 90 minutes and we lost that game. It was a close game.
2-0,
yeah, 2-0. But that was a good game. I thought we played better that game than they did for the most part. They beat us in a couple gut punches, but I thought it was effective in that. So I mean, not that we had the same horses we did back then. Obviously, the guys were much younger back then, but I see what you're saying there. I thought I had a glimmer of hope in the 32nd minute that we tied the game up. A poor pass to Diaby out left. He ends up losing it. Skripski gets the ball, immediately passes it down the pitch to Mark Uth. Mark Uth holds it up, gives it to Bujalepa one time. He gets a goal. We're back in his jack. No, flag is up. Flag is up. I was like, what the hell? And it was the right call. Uth was off. I don't know about you, but I was excited. I thought that was a goal. That was a great play. Heads up play.
It was a really nice finish from Bujalepa as well.
Yes.
Because
it's his first goal.
It probably would have been.
Yeah.
But it's because when it comes to him, it's not a ball that really gives him a lot of time to figure out what he wants to do with it,
Which is probably good.
Might be, yeah. Maybe you don't want too much time in these situations. Yeah, especially when the goals are as important as they are, just kind of makes that propensity to choke maybe a little bit higher. But yeah, he hits it kind of like a curler back post across goal and just completely beats Radetzky. It was a really, really nice finish and really composed finish. I mean, it looked like he had been knocking those kind of things in all the time. Just to see the flag go up, brutal because, at that point, as outplayed as we had been overall in the number of opportunities that Leverkusen had missed. So, it's a 1-0 game.
Yeah.
I mean, very much, in it, and especially with how open and end-to-end it was at times. I mean, like definitely the kind of game where if Schalke had nicked one, things could have changed very quickly. So yeah, unfortunate. Who knows how it would have gone if we had gotten that one in. Yeah,
it could have changed the game. Also, if Rahman found Uth in the beginning, it could have changed the game if they went up 1-0. We went up 1-0, but it is what it is, I guess. It would go into halftime by that same scoreline, 1-0. Some things that I noticed for sure was defensively, we were not engaging. We were letting them have too much of the ball, like kind of like what the announcers were talking about. Like we would be running with the ball carrier, but not really engaging them to try to stop them. We're just like, okay, we're going to run with you, and like that's not going to do anything. In particular, Mascarell and Serdar, and I know you were talking about Serdar earlier. I noticed this in Mascarell as well. First half, he probably had a better first half than he did the second half. Mascarell did, but overall, I think Serdar was really bad both halves. You can't when you're defending the ball carrier, you can't just. I mean, I get you want to run with him because you want to take the ball from him, but try to take the ball from him. Don't just I'm gonna run with you. Okay, that doesn't do anything. Engage him. That's all I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you don't engage him, then Stambouli might come flying out 30 yards and try to do it for you.
Or come back.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the other positive. If you're doing that, it might actually let your center backs back a little bit. But jokes aside. I understand what you mean. I didn't think Mascarell was particularly noteworthy in this one. So I would probably agree with you. And the shape that we're playing at the moment, when you're going to use like kind of like a double pivot, so to speak, and I don't think it necessarily is being played that way all the time, but just sort of in terms of the way that you're setting up, like that's not really where you want Suat Serdar, ideally.
No.
I don't think. I would think that you'd want him elsewhere, but we're playing sort of a system at the moment where there really is no central midfield occupation by anybody. If anything, it's one of the strikers that's dropping deeper into there. So maybe you play Suat Serdar up top with Mark Uth and then have Serdar kind of drop into that. Maybe you could do that instead of playing like a Bujalev there or something. But I don't know. I think like, for instance, I would rather see like Chan Bosduan where Serdar is and then Serdar where like Bujalev is. Or, I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know. Tough.
I think a good example is that, and it's not Schalke, but it's a former Schalke player, Weston McKennie. He's had a hell of a week for Juventus.
Yeah, he has.
They've been playing him. He's the midfielder, obviously, but they've been playing him, up top, he's been involved heavily on the crosses and attack and corners. But he's also dropping back, and so that's exactly kind of like what you're talking about. Is like, if you're not going to put him defensively, put him up top, so then he can contribute offensively and then also help out defensively as well. And he looked like something we wanted to see. With his 2 goals this past week. Unfortunately, our guys are not doing what they need to do at the moment. But yeah, it's been difficult, like you said, in that midfield. Looks like at times we don't have a midfield. A lot of sloppy giveaways in this game by everyone. I mean, I think everybody was guilty of a poor pass at some point or another.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Some people more than others, certainly. But and those kind of things happen at all areas of the pitch, which is why we struggle sometimes to get any possession going. Is because when we turn the ball over, you need those 1 or 2 quick, crisp passes to really launch something, and a lot of times those are not weighted properly or whatever. But especially in the final third in this one, just there's people open, there's people making runs, people arriving late, and getting into decent areas, and we just could not find anybody consistently. And it's frustrating. I mean, it's one thing if you're not creating those, but when they're there constantly and they just never connect, it's like you're just like teasing the Schalke supporters a little bit. And you know what I mean? It's one thing to just like be bad and they're not there in the first place. You can't kind of accept that, but you get your hopes up constantly.
Yeah, and speaking of hopes, our team did play better in that second half than they did. As the second half was far better than the first half. We talked earlier about Michel Langer. He had a great penalty or free kick save in the 51st minute. Really well done there. But we started turning up the tempo. 53rd minute, we had a 3-on-2. Rahman leading again trying to square it off to Boujleb. Couldn't get it. The defender blocks it. A few minutes after that, Rahman, another great opportunity with a right-footed shot, high and wide. So we were starting to get into the game. Looked like we were going to get a goal here any minute now. And then, 67th minute, Baumgartlinger lets off a rocket that, Langer makes a great save on, forces a corner kick. Ensuing corner kick, Bailey kicks it in, near post. Hoppy, or Hop, however you want to pronounce it, was, guarding Baumgartlinger, and he just got out-pushed out of the way. Header into the goal, nothing can do. Boom, goals like that. Yeah, it's again the young players not being strong enough on the ball, and it was glaring there. You saw Kabak was like furious at Matt when he got pushed out of the way there.
Yeah, we got to get confirmation on the correct pronunciation of young Matthew's name. This is turning into the new Nick.
I thought it was Hop. I thought it was Hop, and then I kept hearing Hoppy.
Yeah, I was hearing Hoppy on the broadcast. I'm going to go with Hoppa for the time being still, which is probably wrong, but. Yeah, I mean, he had just come on at that point for Boujleb. That was a substitution, so that was kind of a rude introduction for him, and not a good appearance overall, in my opinion. Couple giveaways from him, yellow card early, plus this goal, maybe one to forget for young Matthew. But once again, like Ozan Kabak is another guy that's in there. But so when that play's starting off, like it's Matthew,
his guy,
yeah, it's both of them, and then for some reason, as Baumgartlinger like steps forward, Kabak just kind of like doesn't follow them, and it's a one-on-one, and it just seems like that kind of I don't know, it just brutal defending, and Kabak's looking around like what happened, and I'm like, well, you didn't really follow me there, but definitely a case of somebody especially of Hoppa's size, because he's a fairly tall kid. Like, you would expect him to be able to put a little bit better of a challenge on that player. But what are you going to do? But there you go. The second set piece goal, as we said, not the way that you want to be conceding to a team like Leverkusen.
Not at all. Yeah, and it looked like they almost like Kabak and Hoppe planned that, right? Because he just stops and then he picks him up automatically. What I would like to see is Kabak stay on him and maybe Matt Hoppe go onto the far post, because when he got the header there, if someone was there, they might have had a chance of getting it. And nobody was there. Someone was near post, but they weren't far post. And typically, you have both posts going on.
The play was like in slow motion in that regard. It was kind of like a flicked on loopy header, and it seemed like it was just in the air forever, and there was just no one at the back post to stop it. Yeah, exactly. But it reminds me of the miscommunication that happened a few match days ago. I think it was Nasicic and Malik Chow on a corner kick, where it looked like kind of both of them were involved with the player, and then one of them just sort of abruptly steps off, and they get kind of lost in the confusion. Similar thing there. So, the last thing a team like Schalke needs is to be conceding as many set piece goals as we are. Yeah. I mean, that is a killer. Like, you cannot be conceding on corner kicks to this extent. Our set piece defense has been atrocious this season.
Yeah,
I don't have the stats off the top of my head to see how we compare. I could be wrong about this, but just the sense that I have from watching this is that we're probably ranked pretty near the bottom in that, and that's got to change immediately.
Yeah, I agree 100% about that. Joseph's in the chat. He says, "Where'd you get the Schalke hats? I like them." There you go. Hammer und Schlagel. Look it up on Twitter or even Instagram. Instagram, you really see all the great gear that this guy has. But definitely Hammer und Schlagel. So giving a shout out to them. We can't be. We're already having enough issues as it is. Don't give people goals off set pieces. That's what's going to kill us. Make them beat us. Don't make them beat us off freaking set pieces. Make them tear us apart and cut through us, because a lot of teams are capable of doing it. They've been doing it, so let them score that way. I thought,
and not Baumgartlinger. I mean, like, make it be like Jonathan Tah or like Schick getting up and going for the, not one of the shorter players that's just hanging out near post. It's way too easy.
Yeah. Shortly after that goal, immediately after that goal, it might have been off the kickoff. Rahman again on a 2-on-1 with Mark Uth doesn't get the square pass off. Like, come on, dude! This is like the 17th time in the game or something that he's done that. It was infuriating, and especially because we had an opportunity to get another goal here just minutes after that. Like I said, Schalke played better in the second half. They did draw a penalty. Both Uth and Serdar were really fouled in the box there. They went for the first foul, which is Mark Uth. Skripski, for some reason, steps up to take it. He is stoned by Radetzky, and it was an easy save. This is Rahman. The rebound goes out. Rahman gets it, heads it. Good header, but Radetzky saves that as well. Radetzky just has our numbers on penalty kicks. Last time we played them, he made a save on Caligiuri, but that was a poorly taken penalty kick. Good on Radetzky making a save, but why is Skripski taking it? Why is So what are your thoughts on this? Because this has been a huge talking point on Schalke Twitter. Obviously, like, how did you analyze that whole situation? The shot or the players taking the shot?
Who took it? Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why he took it. It wasn't like he was having a great game or anything like that. If you're basing on who's having a good game, Rahman was involved heavily. Did he do any great things at the end? No. Uth was certainly you want to have take it if you could. Mascarell as a captain, maybe Serdar, but Skripski. I didn't understand why the decision was for him to get it. Maybe it's something in practices that we see that he's the best penalty kick taker. We don't know. I don't know. But I thought it was a bad choice for me. It would probably be the fifth selection for me if I were to choose on that lineup of who's going to kick it.
So the thing that was interesting to me was that it was Mark Uth that grabbed the ball from Radetzky, but then he very quickly handed it off to Skripski. So I don't know if it was preset that Skripski was going to take it, and I don't know if there's been conversation in the media about this afterwards. I'm sure they may have answered this question, and I just missed it. But like, Mark Uth didn't put up a big that much of a fight. So I'm conflicted about how to feel about this. On the one hand, from the perspective of how I want the squad to be psychologically, I love that Skripski is confident and wants to take it. Like, I want Skripski to want to take it. I just don't want him to actually take it, if that makes sense. So I love that from him, although I was simultaneously horrified that he was being allowed to do this. Somebody of Mark Uth's set piece caliber generally, you would think, and also somebody who's kind of like stepped into a leadership role, which we've been commending repeatedly because there's such a dearth of that at the moment. Like, I would have expected him to do that, and I would have wanted him to do that. And how easily he gave that up to me is almost a problem on his part, unless this had been like preordained. But Skripski not the guy, and then it wasn't a good shot. Go ahead.
No. I agree with that. I was going to say, I have a theory that maybe why Skripski take it. Now I'm thinking about, you were talking about all this. Mark Uth has certainly been one of the best players, if not the best player on the team outside of Renault this season. And so he doesn't need any extra kick to get into gear, get his game in gear. Him as trying to be like the leader on the team, trying to get other people involved. Maybe Rahman is obviously coming on lately. So maybe he's like, hey, if I get Skripski a goal, maybe his confidence will go up and maybe he'll get a goal. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because Uth seems like that kind of player, like, what, I'm already doing good. Let's get some other guys involved, get their confidence going. I would have rather had Serdar there, maybe, if you want to choose people, but I don't know. It's just for me. It's such a critical moment of the match. That's when you do need, it would have been 2-1. It would have been 2-1 at that point. The leader to really do it. Also, to Matthew Hoppe's credit, he walked over to Uth and he seemed like he was interested in taking it as well, because he had a word in his ears too. So I would love to see that if he scored. Once again, I don't know if I really want him taking that either, but I love the confidence from both of those players, and that's at least the right attitude. You don't want players with how the situation the club's in and how important this goal could have been to be shrinking away from that moment, and no one wants to be the one to potentially miss it. So credit for him for stepping up and doing it. But it's unfortunately it's just not a good penalty. I talk about this a lot, but I kind of view penalties. I kind of divide it into 5 vertical zones, where there's a zone on either post, a zone centrally, and then 2 no man's land zones. And to me,
you never want to hit it into that like middle no man's land zone unless you get the goalkeeper going the wrong way. That's a very difficult area to score because that's usually exactly where the keeper ends up being. Yeah. It's got to be central. It's got to be, in the corner. It's got to be up high somewhere. So when you hit that sort of like low middle ground, no man's land shot, it's the worst possible place to place it. So, decent pace on it, but ultimately the placement's not there, and it's a huge thing wasted. And it's another one of those like gut punches to the psychology. It's like, we have a goal called back right for offsides. We get a penalty and then it gets saved, and then it's a double save because Benito Rahman can't follow it up. It's just like like what do we got to do to get a goal in? So just worst case scenario in terms of what could have happened to break the spirit of the team there.
I feel like, and I want someone to find a statistic, and I don't have it in front of me, but I feel like no one's missed more penalties this season, probably the last couple seasons than us. I feel like we're in double digits or something. It seems like, I know we've missed more than we made. I can tell you that. That's what it feels like, at least. I need to find a statistic, but
this is what's funny though, is like who have been some of our better penalty tackles? Daniel Caligiuri, gone. Nabil Bentaleb. Same first and last initial apologies.
Sort of gone.
But Bentaleb, for a while there, I think he had made like 10 or 11 penalties in a row.
We called him Bentaleb for a reason, right?
Exactly. But he's not in the squad either. So, some of the guys that you would typically rely on set pieces are just not there. And so that's why, like, given how good Marco has been on these, you just like him to just be like, no, this is mine. I'm taking this. I'm putting this away. Everyone get away from me.
Yeah. I would have liked to see Naldo step up or something to take that penalty too, but
Dude, love a good Naldo pen. Haven't had a good Naldo pen in a while. Just blast it, from 30 yards. Whatever it is. Yeah, fantastic.
That goal, or that lack of goal, I should say, the save ended up coming back to hurt us because it could have been 2-1 at that point, but just minutes later, Skripski, who was having a bad game at the whole, not just that missed penalty, but he was having a bad game, I thought. Yeah. Had the ball taken away from him at center pitch. It leads to a very quick counter. Amiri, with a beautiful throw pass to Schick. Schick didn't even touch it. He just one-timed it into the back of the net. All she wrote. 3-0 at that point. We did see an appearance of Hamza Menda in this game. And the bits that we did see him, he came on at 3-0, but he had good pace down the left-hand side. I thought he did some good things out there. And if for me, I would want to see Ochipka take a break and put in Hamza Mendel, see what he can do for a full 90, because we need pace. Ochipka's great at set pieces, but he doesn't have that pace. He can't beat anybody. Give Mendel a try. There it is. I finally came around and said I want to see Mendel full-time for at least a couple of games.
Yeah, I don't disagree. We've said that on a number of episodes so far. He went out on loan. He had a better loan spell than he did when he was actually in a Schalke kit. Yep. Came back into the squad. We need the depth there. Surprised that we just haven't seen him yet. I don't know what's going on with that, but definitely not opposed to it. And especially just for the sake of, you've seen how many minutes that Ochipka's been playing, how many minutes Ludwig's been playing. Yeah. And clearly there's an interest in Manuel Baum in terms of rotating that. That's why you've been seeing Malik Chow slide out to either side. Yeah, work Mendel in occasionally, see what he can do. And maybe even, he can play with the formations and potentially get him on the pitch in a different area as well, if you want to, we'll see. As for the shit goal,
the shit goal or the shit goal?
Well, either one, really. Yeah. It's accurate. This is the kind of goal. This is the kind of goal when you see this, you're like, oh, we're in trouble. Yep. Like we're
immediately
we're in trouble. The set piece goals, they're not good. They're not ideal. But it's those kind of things can happen. This play, Kabak had kind of like stepped out to ball pressure. So maybe he had like made a pass even before we lost it or something, but Kabak had kind of stepped out. So if you look at the replay, what you'll see Malik Chow's out right. Mascarell had slotted back into Kabak's central center back position, and then there's Stambouli there as well. So it's kind of a back three. Patrick Schick is sort of behind everybody, not getting back on side. And like just Mascarell and Stambouli as well. Just no idea where this guy is. Nope. And so Kabak, once again, Kabak's out of position. And once this ball gets turned over, Schick gets back on side, and Mascarell has not like checked or looked for him or anything. And he just runs right in behind and scores super easily. And there's no defensive effort. And Kabak is furious. And it's like on the one hand you could be like, cool, you're out of position. But on the second hand, I can't be angry because like Mascarell literally slotted back there to cover that. And then just like your head is in the clouds. Like this is the kind of thing that's happening way too often, is we're just losing runners. Yeah. When you see goals like that is non-existent defending. Yeah, that kind of thing cannot happen.
Very similar to that goal that it was Halan who scored that against Nastachis, and he watching him run for 20 yards and didn't.
Yeah, kind of. There's been a number of these this season. It's just if you defend it and you get beat because the guy just takes a good angle and there's a good ball or he's faster, that's one thing. It's just, but yeah, I mean, the Patrick Schick goal that we talked about earlier. I mean, Patrick Schick was like very wasteful in this game and still ended up getting his goal.
Yeah,
but he kept popping up in dangerous areas, and that one we talked about in the first half is another one where just Stambouli just lost him and didn't follow the run, and this happens way too often. So yeah, it's goals like that we are just like that's such a level of like just non-existent defending. That it's troublesome. It's not even bad defending. It's just we're not even like attempting to stop it.
And I don't remember. I think it was last press conference. I think maybe before this game, where Baum was saying like, guys, our defensive guys keep pushing up like Kabak and Stambouli often do, where they push up and they're out of position when they lose the ball, and there's no defensive coverage. It's like, yeah, but in certain situations like there is coverage, like Mascarell, like you're mentioning, and they're just not doing anything with it. Like you said, they're not checking their guys or anything and letting people just free run in there and get a goal. So defensively seems to be the issue still. I mean, we have some glimmer of hope in certain areas of the pitch, but defensively it's still being difficult. We can't give up. We haven't had a shutout in a long ass time. It's been over. It feels like a year. We said this that last game. I can't remember now, but our last podcast. But it's been a long ass time. So yeah. And then to make it matters worse, after the game, obviously Leverkusen are excited. They won the game, right? And then they put out this tweet, and it says. I'll translate it for you. It says, thanks to Thiaw, Baumi, Patrick, and Nicolas. We're taking us 3 points home, taking us 3 points home with us today. So they basically thanked Malik Thiaw for that. And many people were upset by that tweet. Bayer Leverkusen, to their credit, they did come back and they did apologize. And they came back and said, hey, admittedly, that was a stupid tweet. It's not our intention to embarrass or disrespect a player from the opposition team. We apologize to Malik Thiaw and Schalke. But that play or those tweets tweet certainly raised some eyebrows around. Did you take offense to that? I want for those in the chat, were you offended by that tweet by Leverkusen? Let us know in the chat. Jack, what about you? What'd you make of that whole tweet situation?
Not really, because I didn't interpret it as like intentionally malicious. I think it was just not thought out well. With like saying like banter's one thing, but like this is a young kid who's slotting in to try to do a job for a team that is just in a brutal run of form and maybe going to get relegated. And being like, he helped us get the win today is just a little bit. It's just like not necessary. But I don't really think that's what they were trying to do with that tweet. Yeah. At least I mean, I could be wrong. I just didn't think about it. So it definitely raised an eyebrow, and I saw the conversation, people getting upset about it, and I'm glad they apologized for it. That was the classy thing to do. Yeah. But yeah, I wasn't furious about it.
The one thing I was surprised is, Leverkusen's English site is usually really funny, and they're usually on top of this kind of stuff. I thought it would have been them when I first saw the tweet, and then I realized, oh no, this is their actually main account that's saying it, and it was in German. And I was like, oh, okay, well that's odd to me. Like, okay, maybe the English account would have never done that.
It's actually funny that you mention it, because I actually sent the tweet to a private Twitter chat that I'm in, and even though the tweet was in German, I just like, because of what it said, it wasn't even, I thought it was the English account. Like
me too.
Yeah. So obviously, and that account is notable for a number of reasons. So I was actually, it was the actual German, like, official account, which was kind of funny that it came from that one. But hopefully Malik Thiaw himself like didn't see it or didn't take offense to it or anything. He made a mistake in the game, but I don't want him, feeling as though the reason we lost is entirely his fault or something like that. There's a lot of fingers to point, I think, in every single one of these games. And I don't feel comfortable singling out any one person on our team,
I agree. Looking ahead, we've played a hell of a schedule so far. Like we mentioned earlier, top 7 of the league, we've played them all. So that means there's still teams on the bottom that we haven't played yet. We need to play. Before we get into who's coming up, I do want to get into a little bit of news that we got. It's a much quieter week in the news department than it was last week, or the last couple of weeks, I should say. Amine Harit, the guy who was suspended from and told to train alone, is back in training with the team as of, I think, today or yesterday. Good news, right? I mean, he apparently had a conversation with Baum, and they're on the same page, and he's going to work hard and play for the club, blah, blah, blah. Do you want him back? And then can he help us? He has been very poor this season overall. What are your thoughts?
I don't know how to feel anymore, dude. I have no idea how to feel about this player and the way this has been handled. This is now the second time that he's been suspended and then reintegrated into the team for disciplinary issues. I mean, this seems to just be kind of like a carousel of silliness, in my opinion, to some extent. Like either Harit is not professional and is consistently demonstrating that he's not professional, and we need to move on from him and sell him immediately, or he's fine and we need to stop suspending him. This is one of those things where after a while, I just don't think you can live in this like middle ground where he's in the squad, he's out of the squad, we give him a second chance, we get whatever. I don't know. It goes without saying that every Schalke supporter ideally would love to see Harit in the squad because at his best, he's arguably our best player.
Yep.
He can make things happen on the pitch that really no one else can make happen. So, yeah, I would love to have him back in the lineup doing those kind of things, playing at that level. Hasn't showed that he's going to be playing at that level anytime recently, really not since like the first half of last season. It's been like a year since we saw like some good Harit performances. And then also there's been like the effort question. So I'm not overly excited about it. I'm just going to try to be as optimistic as possible and say like, I hope it works out and that we don't really have to talk about Harit in a negative sense at any point from here on out. This should be the last that we have to discuss it on this podcast for this season.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you because I don't know what to feel about it. I mean, if Baum decides, because it's ultimately Baum's decision, right? If he decides to put him in the starting 11, prove it to us. Prove it to us that you've changed. You're going to play for the club and play better. If he's going to play better, then hell yeah, put him on the damn pitch. But if he's going to continue playing the way he played before, I'd rather keep the younger guys in there, give them an opportunity. I want to see more of Can Bazouan for sure. Boujalev had some good moments with Mark Ut in this game. I thought they're back and forth, and also with Rahman was there. So I kept saying in the first half, like you started seeing the three of them hooking up and chances more and more chances coming. So you want to see more of Boujalev as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know whose place. He's not going to take Rahman's place because I think Rahman's doing enough to stay on the pitch, and it's going to be in that midfield, I think, but it's going to be more in a high role, obviously. It might go back to a 4-1-4-1, which may be beneficial to us. Who knows? But I don't know. And, I brought that up because we got, 3 teams ahead that, as hard as the games were we've played so far, we have some winnable games. Augsburg, Freiburg, and Bielefeld, all of them in the bottom half of the table. I think all of them 15 or worse, or I should say, 14 or worse. Are you optimistic? This is also a question for the chat, the group, people in the chat. Are you optimistic heading to these 3 games? With those 3 games and with Harit back, do you think we have a reason to have hope that we can? I mean, there's still plenty of time in the season left to turn this around. The commentators mentioned that over and over again. But do you feel optimistic considering how everything's gone?
No, I don't feel optimistic in the sense that I think that we've seen enough to be optimistic. I don't think we have. I'm not fatalistic. And I'm not resigned to any sort of particular fate, as you said just now, and as we've mentioned a couple of times. Like, it is far too early in the season for us to be mathematically worried about any sort of relegation issue. Now, obviously, we're bottom of the table, and if we continue to be bottom of the table, at some point we're going to have that conversation. I don't think we need to have that conversation now. I don't think it's a helpful conversation to have now, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm optimistic because the performances just still haven't been there. But what I will say is this is the crucial part of the schedule. That the first 5 games were crucial for a different reason, to see kind of like what the tone was going to be for this season, what was going to happen to David Wagner, right? This now stretch of the last few games before the Winterpause, to me, is probably the second most important stretch of the season so far. If we, as I said last week and probably the week before that, if we arrive at the Winterpause after some of these opponents like Bielefeld and some of these teams, and we still don't have a win on the board, that to me is going to be a major cause for concern. So I'm just kind of in wait and see mode. I'm not optimistic, but I'm not freaking out. But this is kind of like time to show up and time to do something. This has to happen now. It's right now.
What are we, like 25 games now? We're getting closer and closer to that magic mark, on magic mark, whatever you want to call it. Dog in the chat says, I want to be optimistic, but the sad part is that we're below all these teams that are 14 or lower. I mean, it's true, yeah, but I mean, if we're going to beat anyone in the league, it's got to be these teams. It has to be these teams. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be difficult. It's so hard to beat the teams at the top. So when the teams at the bottom that are closer to your level, you have to take advantage of that.
100%.
I'm optimistic. We've seen the main thing for me, and like a lot to your point, is defensively we need to figure this out. We need to shore it up, because if we can't stop the goals, we're not going to win anything. We're not going to outscore anybody. We can hardly score as it is. So if we can keep a low-scoring game, 0 or 1 goal, we have a chance. I believe in the offense enough and the midfield enough that they can, with these these teams who have a couple up ahead on the horizon, that we have a chance to do something. I don't want to see a draw. I want to see some damn wins. If we get a win against Augsburg, that could really change. If a win would change something, I would think. It would give us confidence. And we need to get as much confidence as we can before we play Bayern again at the start of the Rückrunde. So I am optimistic, but like you said, it's hard. We know what we're looking at. We know what we're going to get. Can the defense stop anything?
And that goes to the conversation we were having earlier. Just at what point do you flick that switch and go, like, we're going to start playing super negative? No one wants to see that, and I also don't think it's going to really help the buy-in for the players, because that's not a fun way for them to play either.
That's how we played in the Rückrunde last year, right? We just gave up.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. But it's just kind of like, it is something to think about. Is like, are we being too naive and saying, we keep trotting out every week trying to make this thing work, and we're consistently seeing that it's not working. We're getting punished for stupid mistakes. Do we just need to shut it down and say, 2 banks of 4, super tight in the box, hit him on the counter, that kind of stuff. Go Robbie, go tactics, put him back in the lineup, see what can happen. I mean, yeah, like I don't want to see that, but it's something to think about, and it's a fair point, because it's not sustainable. It really isn't. And like this goal difference thing has to get turned around, because if we do end up in this kind of spot coming into the season, this is going to be a massive, massive factor. And so
we still got to play Bayern and Leipzig one more time. They both put up 5-8 goals on us.
Exactly. So if we're going to keep losing, okay, whatever, but we can't keep losing by 3-4 goals a game. We just can't do it. Can't do it. Can't ship that many.
Absolutely not. Joseph says he's not optimistic. It's just like, whatever happens. I'm like, yeah, it's getting there, but I still got a little bit of hope in here. A little bit of hope left, Jack.
Yeah, you can have hope without being optimistic.
That's true. That is very true.
I don't think that's a contradiction. That's kind of where I am at the moment. Yeah. Like I'm not resigned, but I'm not necessarily expecting anything.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Off to listener questions. Just a couple here before we wrap this up. First, our friend from on Twitter, Robbie says, how did practice focus like tactics, defensive schemes change from Wagner to Baum? Not really sure. We're not there day to day, Jack, so I'm not exactly sure. I've seen some stuff where the main difference for me has been mentalities. What they're trying to get in the guy's head is we need to start thinking positively, because we've been such a negative state. Not under Wagner, we're still losing, but the play was just non-existent. Now there's some kind of semblance of a team there. So I think that's been the main takeaway there is try to get them in their head that they're positivity. I think positivity has been the main change in terms of tactics. Day to day, we're not there, so I don't know, unless you've seen something, Jack.
Yeah, I'm in a cabin in the middle of the woods in Northwest Wisconsin right now, so I don't exactly know what's going on, like drill by drill in practice sessions over there. But yeah, I think from what we've been seeing, there's been a lot of work, as you said, like, there's been a lot of emphasis on mentality being placed and trying to build the psychology of the team back up. And, after a loss like this, it's like another cycle of Manuel Baum over the next couple of days, trying to get them to believe that they can achieve a result. And it's just kind of like they have to build it up like week after week. There's never any momentum that you can build on, because you just keep getting reset back to that initial point. So, but as far as like specific tactical things or drills, I have no idea.
The last part of his question was saying something more to the extent of, what the difference in the team, what can we change in the team, management, hierarchy, what can we do to implement at Schalke to make it more successful? Obviously having people to know what they're doing and trust what they're doing, and buy into the system. So like, with the manager, we need to get the players to make sure they're buying in. And if they're buying in and being optimistic, I think we need some luck. Overall, I think is what we need, some luck. We've missed so many opportunities. Like you mentioned, goals taken away, penalty misses, VAR against us. Everything that any kind of luck that we could have had has been all against us. I can't think of one call that's been our way outside of, you got a penalty, but we still miss those penalties. I'm like, we need luck to go our way. That's what we need. That's what we need to change, I think. Baby steps.
I would agree with that to some extent, but I also think you just need a little bit of quality.
Yeah,
at some point.
But it's hard when you're in debt.
Yeah, but Manuel Baum keeps coming out after every game and being like, we're running really well, we're working our butts off, and we're just not getting anything for it, and that's frustrating. And I agree with that to some extent. But just working hard isn't necessarily going to get you. It's important, and it's something that like we criticize when we see the team not putting in that shift. But you have to also be good. at some point, to put it simply. And yeah, just I mean the number of misplaced passes that we saw against Leverkusen and that sort of thing. That's just not enough quality. Like you have to be better than that. You can't win games playing that kind of way. So yeah, luck is one thing, but sometimes you got to make your own luck by at least making that extra pass, completing that thing, letting the opportunity come. I mean, like we had several shots that could have been there that would have been high percentage opportunities. Yeah. Something could have happened on one of those, and it's our fault for not getting those off,
I think when you go back to that coal miner mentality with some of the stuff you mentioned, going the one thing you see glaring is those 50-50 chances that we don't go after. Occasionally you see players like Mascarell or Rahman. Rahman's been really good about back checking and getting that ball back, but you don't see that enough where it's 50-50, anybody could get it, and our guys are not diving in to go get it. They're not putting their heart and soul into it. Not getting penalties or yellow cards trying to go after it and missing it. We want to see more of that. I think that'll appeal to the fans. If you're playing, giving your heart out, you're trying as hard as you can. That's what fans want. I mean, the fortune will come if you do that. If you continue to play hard and put your blood, sweat, and tears on that sleeve, the results will start to come there. But we're a long way from there at this moment, unfortunately, and it's need to find a way to get back to that. I don't know. So, Glenn on Twitter says the next 7 match days is the real season for us. And yeah, we could say that because we talked about early in the season how the first 5 games was really not. We have to ignore that. We have to go. The season starts after that, and this really next 7 days is a crucial point for us. And really, you can say the next 14 days really, it's really crucial for us, especially these teams that we definitely have a chance to get wins out against them.
Yeah, I would agree. It's what I said earlier. Is that initial stretch in the season was, like I said, important to figure out what we were going to look like, right? And kind of set the tone for the campaign. And unfortunately, it was basically worst case scenario. But this is the other one now. The opponents are not the top tier opponents that we're going to be facing in this upcoming run of games. If there's ever an opponent that you want to have on the schedule, it's some of these guys at the moment, and just got to find a way to take advantage of them. And it's going to become increasingly difficult to stay positive. If we're sitting in the the dead of winter in the Winterpause and still looking at a team that has 0 wins. So I hope for their own, and the pressure is only going to increase on them too.
Especially as get closer to 31 too.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I hope for their sake they find a way to do it, because at some point it's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. If we keep losing like this. So yeah, this is gotta have it. Gotta find a way to do it.
And to your point, Doug says there's no point for trying. You're right. We need to find ways to get a win. So
yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think like the coal miner mentality and the effort thing is something that Schalke fans all care about, but like it's not enough, right? And it's easy to say that. I'm not like calling you out or anything like that. I agree with you. It's just like it's easy to say that, but at some point you just like it's not enough. Like you just need to like execute and like have some fucking quality on the pitch. Sorry to swear. And it's just like, too many moments in this game. It's like, it's kind of there in a better team or a more informed player would make that opportunity turn into like an actual chance. And we were just kind of like one step away from some of these things being actual chances. And that's kind of like the next step for me offensively is just our composure and some of our decision-making in the final third. But
I agree. I was getting ready to read a question by Paul Forrester, and then he jumps on our chat group and he says, "I'm optimistic. The goals will come. The victories will come. Keep fighting. Glück auf."
All right, Paul. Let's go, Paul.
His ears must be burning because his question was on Facebook: will our upcoming run of games against the teams on the bottom half of the table lift us out of relegation? And
I hope so.
I agree. I hope so. I mean, if there's any opportunity that we're going to get out of the relegation zone, this is it. We need to find a way to get 3 points from each of these games. I'm not going to say 9 points we have to do that, but we need to see at least a win out of this group. At least one win. I want 3, obviously, but hopefully it gets us out of relegation. So we're only, 2 points out now? I think Mainz are still losing. Everyone at the bottom's losing. But yeah, so we're still in striking distance. I mean, if we get 3 straight wins, we're in the middle of the table all of a sudden, So, I mean,
that's what we've been saying. The math on the bottom of the table is such that in the space of just a couple weeks, this could change dramatically. This is not a mathematical issue at this point. We still have plenty of time to string some wins together, string some results together, and turn this thing around. But we need to have that happen because we can't just keep saying that forever. At some point, we actually so.
Stay in the Zweite Liga. That's right.
Yeah, you're right.
Trying to pull up the table real quick. Just going to confirm. Okay, so we get 9 points. We're at 12 points. At 12 points, we're sitting in 10th place. So I'd much rather go heading into the rematch against Bayern in 12th place than in last place, because they're going to go and try to put up another eight goals.
12 points at this point and put us in 10th.
Yeah,
I mean, so yeah, obviously that's assuming that everyone else above us doesn't win a game, but like,
right.
Yeah, but I mean, that's exactly. I mean, I didn't even realize it was that favorable. That's the thing. Yeah. We're talking about three quick results, and suddenly you're at a mid-table position.
Hoffenheim and Augsburg are both on 12 points, and they're in 10th and 11th.
Yeah, I mean, they could be at 20 by the time this finishes. Who knows? But yeah, but the point still stands. I mean, like, the gap at the bottom is not that sizable. It is in terms of goal difference. It's not in terms of actual points earned at this point. So, yeah, let's. Dear Lord, please. That's all I can say.
That's right. Please, baby Jesus. Before we wrap this up, Schalke newsletter, make sure you sign up for the newsletter. Just enter your email address, and you're going to get them monthly. You're going to not only get important information about the club, but you also get the latest on the local fan clubs across North America and even our own podcast. And I think there was a shout out to St. Louis club, I think, on the most recent update. So, yeah, definitely check that out for sure. Jack, anything else before we close this out?
No, I mean, I love anything St. Louis, Amsterdam Tavern, and the whole saga that's had on the podcast. So hopefully the pandemic dies down and I can get back down there for a game at some point.
That's right. Absolutely. Keep tuning in each week as we will bring the latest from the Royal Blues. We want to thank the club and all the followers for providing us tidbits for our podcast today. Thank you for all the questions you've been giving us. It's definitely awesome stuff to interact with. If there are any topics or anything you would like us to discuss, let us know at SchalkeMerica on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Jack, do you want to give a shout out to NBC4 Nashville or anyone?
Should we? I mean, I think we should keep doing it until the winter pause, and then we can reevaluate.
Find someone else. Someone else.
It does feel like a one-sided relationship.
It does. Kind of like Schalke. No, I'm just kidding.
No comment on that. No comment on that.
They're not giving us wins. Jack.
Yeah.
We put our heart and soul, and they're not giving us wins.
But they are giving us content.
They are giving us content.
Plenty of content.
Of content.
Content kings, honestly.
Content kings.
Content is king, and Schalke are the content kings. So
there you go. Boom. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JM Mangan, JMMangan. Right there on the screen if you're watching the live stream on YouTube.
Absolutely. On Twitter. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN. For those, obviously those watching, hopefully you're subscribed. If you're listening, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and all that good stuff. You can follow me at R_KHARMAN on Twitter and anywhere else. Until the next podcast comes, my friends, stay ready. It will be with you soon. Shoes.